Hello and welcome to part 4 of this 5-part video series about how to reduce stress and overwhelm in your life. And I'm really pleased to be here with you today to talk to you about today's topic, which is boundaries, how to set and maintain healthy boundaries in your life. So some of you might understand what a boundary is, others might be wondering what the hell I'm talking about. So a boundary for me is a line in the sand that says this is okay for me, this is not okay for me. You might also want to look at it as the standards in your life that you expect to be met or that you need to be met in order to feel good, in order to feel comfortable. So boundaries can relate to different areas of our lives. They can be about your personal space. You can have boundaries that relate to how you expect to be treated. You can have boundaries around how you spend your time, what you prioritize in your life. And we all have boundaries and standards, even if we're not completely conscious of them already. So what I would really love for you after watching this video is for you to really start to become conscious about your boundaries and to understand where they might be being crossed. So today's video is very much about you reclaiming your power and taking back your power. And that is what boundaries enable you to do. They enable you to stay in your power and to not give your power away to other people. And the likelihood is that if you go and look at that list of stressors and things that overwhelm you, that there are going to be some boundaries of yours that are being crossed or trampled all over in some instances, and that is what is causing you a lot of the stress and overwhelm in your life. So a simple example of a boundary is personal space. Everybody has a different personal space boundary, and you can probably feel it when you're in conversation with somebody. If they're standing too close to you or sitting too close to you, you'll be able to energetically feel that something just isn't quite right. So I actually have quite a big personal space boundary, so I know that I need to step back and give myself more space when I'm talking to somebody, because if I don't, then I'm just constantly distracted thinking about the fact that they're standing too close to me and I'm not fully present, they're not getting the best of me, and I feel uncomfortable. But it's only in learning that about myself that I'm now able to take control, to take back my power. So that's why it's really important to understand what your standards are in order to implement them, basically. So another one might be how you expect to be treated or expect to be spoken to. So again, I am highly sensitive to people's tone, to the words they use and to their energy. You know, I'm a linguist, so I can be highly sensitive in how I expect to be spoken to, and if somebody uses a tone that I don't like, then I feel very uncomfortable. So what I am learning to do, and as always I'm in this with you, I'm not a master at this at all, is to be able to say to people in an assertive way and not an aggressive way, actually it's not okay for you to speak to me like that. I would really rather you spoke to me in this way, and then I'm going to respond much better. So it's about giving people the information that they need in order to be able to interact with you most effectively. So let's think about the things that are on your list that are stressing you out. You might have somebody at work who is crossing a boundary of how you expect to be treated. You might be in a corporate like I was and constantly surrounded by other people, but actually have a really big personal space boundary. So what I used to do is take myself off, sit somewhere far away from everybody, and just to kind of recharge my energy, because it's not always possible to isolate yourself when you're working in that corporate environment. So we have to know how to manage that if we have a big personal space boundary. And then we have things like how you spend your time and how much time you're willing to devote to things. So I would hazard a guess that on your list of things that stress you out or cause you overwhelm are things that you have agreed to do because you feel like you should do them, because there's an expectation there. You've always done it. You're the reliable one, you're the capable one, especially if you class yourself as a high achiever. But just because you can doesn't mean that you should. So if there are things on your list that are stressing you out as a result of you saying yes to something when really you would have loved to say no, it's time to figure out how to implement your boundaries when somebody's asking you for help or to contribute to something. So a little mantra that might help you with this comes from my guru, Brené Brown, and she has a mantra that is choose discomfort over resentment. And what that means is choose the momentary discomfort of setting your boundary over the long-term resentment of allowing someone to walk all over it. So for example, say there's a Christmas fair coming up, very seasonal, very topical, and somebody has asked you to make 24 mince pies, but you have got so much work on, you've got so many family commitments that it is going to really add stress to your life to spend time making these 24 mince pies, especially if you're like me and you have no idea how to make a mince pie. So you can either take that on and grumble in resentment about the fact that you're having to spend your evenings doing this thing that you didn't want to do and it's the other person's fault, or you can say, I'm really sorry, I've got so much on my plate right now. Any other time I would love to help, I would love to contribute, please do ask me again. Or if you really don't want to be asked again, you can just say, I'm really sorry, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. There will be momentary discomfort while that other person almost stands aghast at the fact that somebody has said no, but you won't have that long-term festering resentment about doing something that you didn't want to do in the first place. So you might be getting from all of this description of boundaries and setting boundaries that there is a need for us to be assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, to have self-worth. So we have to believe that we are worthy of our desires being met in order to be able to set boundaries. If not, then you'll have that little inner critic in your head, or your inner mean girl, as I like to call mine, basically saying that your standards are too high, you're asking too much, you're expecting too much. Well, the thing is with that I've learned, if I allow my boundary to be crossed, my boundary still doesn't change. So I still end up in resentment and feeling unhappy because the standards that I need to be met in life, they just don't move. They're pretty immovable. And what I've learned to do to combat that is to think about where in my life are those standards met. So if I have people in my life, which I do, who meet my standards, then that's evidence for me that I'm not being too demanding or expecting too much. I just need to expect the same of everyone, and if they're not able to meet my standards, then I find a different way to interact with them, or we kind of stop interacting altogether, basically. So I hope that has been helpful. I imagine that some of you are watching this thinking, oh my goodness, this is challenging, I've never done this before, and you know, people expect certain things of me. And I'd just like to quote something from a lady called Shauna Niequist, who wrote a book called Present Over Perfect. And she says that expectations, roles and structures seem immovable until we start to move them. So I just would invite you to start small, start setting mini boundaries with people. And you might have to have a conversation with friends and family and say, look, this is something new that I'm doing, just to let you know. But it doesn't mean that you can't start setting boundaries. So I hope that was really helpful for you, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video where I'm going to be talking all about energy, one of my favourite topics. So bye for now.